its authority over D.C. law enforcement. Now the White House is shifting decision-making authority from its police chief to the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced Thursday the Justice Department will name DEA head Terry Cole as Emergency Police Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Department. It's a controversial move facing pushback from district leaders. National Guard troops and federal agents are ramping up their presence, starting 24-hour patrols now around the Capitol. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us with the latest. Gabe, good morning. So what power does this order give to Terry Cole, and what are we hearing in response from D.C.'s mayor and its AG?
Well, hi there, Joe. Well, it's a remarkable power struggle here in the nation's capital. Up until now, you had heard mostly a cooperative tone from district officials with regards to the federal takeover of the police department. But as you mentioned, now Attorney General Pam Bondi has appointed the DEA Administrator Terry Cole as the, quote, Emergency Police Commissioner. Essentially, he is leading the police department. However, D.C. officials say not so fast. The D.C. Attorney General basically is saying that the order is unlawful and that city leaders they don't have to follow it. The mayor as well is also pushing back on this. This will likely end up in the courts. But again, a remarkable power struggle. And right now, it is sort of unclear who is actually leading the D.C. Police Department, Joe.
And this announcement comes as the president claims the military presence is already working. What is he saying, and what is actually happening on the ground?
Well, listen, it's very interesting. You speak with residents here in D.C., the reaction is mixed. We spoke with one community activist who has been here for decades and is part of a neighborhood watch program, has led it. He was very supportive of the federal takeover of the police department and says the increased presence by federal resources that you see right there on the screen is very welcome, that crime, in his view, has dropped over the last several days. However, there are others who say that this essentially amounts to authoritarianism, that the feds are coming in and taking over the police department when they shouldn't. Now, yesterday, I was in the Oval Office when President Trump spoke about this. Listen to what he had to say.
People are so happy to see our military going into D.C. and getting these thugs out. As you know, we arrested a lot of people yesterday. We arrested a lot of people today. Washington, D.C. is at its worst point, and it will soon be at its best point. You're going to have a very safe, you're going to have a crime-free city.
Now, look, the White House saying that overnight, the night before, there were a total of about 45 arrests by federal agents. That, when you compare it to the average that D.C. Metro Police does on any given night, they average around 67 or so each night. So it's questionable whether the federal resources have made a huge difference in terms of arrest. However, the White House and the president also mentioning that this has been a huge deterrent effect. So, again, the Trump administration arguing that this is already working, John.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's probably going to take some time to actually see what the numbers say before we can make any assessments, because any number can go one way or the other. You mentioned there are some people in the city who do actually welcome this, but we also know there are some who don't. There's been some pushback. What are you hearing there?
Well, yes, and as I mentioned earlier, the D.C. city officials up until now had struck this cooperative term. Mayor Bowser had been arguing that she was powerless to turn down this federal help, and in some ways wanted to work with the federal government to address the issue of crime in D.C., which, like many major cities, has had to deal with it over the last few years. Although crime statistics do show that crime had been on the way down. The Trump administration argues that those numbers have been manipulated, so even that is a huge debate at this point. But yesterday, Joe, there was that protests, more than 100 protesters that had gathered at a commercial residential area here in D.C. When local police, along with federal agents, had set up a checkpoint that you saw right there. Those protesters heckled the law enforcement officers. There was at least one arrest. And then also there was another incident earlier in the week where a man threw a Subway sandwich at a federal officer. You see the aftermath right there. He then ran away. Police arrested him. You see the video that essentially went viral. You see him throwing that sandwich at that federal officer. Well, yesterday we learned, according to the Attorney General, that that man actually worked at the Department of Justice. And the Attorney General says that he's since been fired.
All right. Gabe Gutierrez reporting from the White House. Gabe, thank you so much.